Dude, the buying in bulk thing, I have started doing that. Like, no joke. So I found out that the deodorant I use, which is the best deodorant of all time, no longer going to be manufactured. No! I found a website that had like 23, and I bought them all.
23 boxes or 23 deodorants?
Deodorants, yeah.
That should last you a while. I mean,
I hope so.
I bought a 2-pack once, and that lasted me forever.
Well, yeah, but I got something to tell you about. Maybe you should have used it a little more often. That's
Oh,
all
I
I'm
see.
saying.
Womp womp.
I don't actually know.
I'm actually known for being not smelly, so
That's what you're known for?
You know, I believe that. Some people are known for inventing things. Some people are known
for being artists.
For their scent. Some are known for their lack of scent.
That's right. A pleasant, non-threatening smell.
Makes it easy to sneak up on people.
Welcome to Spoilerpiece Theater, the podcast that doesn't give a shit about spoilers. We just want to talk about the movies. My name is Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly. And what else do I write? Orlando Weekly. And I'm a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
Hi, I'm Megan Kearns. I'm a freelance writer and film critic, editor of Bitch Flicks, and also a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association.
And my name is Evan Crean, and I am editor for The Independent. I am co-chair of BAFCA and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living.
And, hey, it's basically this is the Christmas episode because all the movies in this show open on Christmas Day. Mm-hmm. We got 3 movies this week. We've got, each time I just read this title, I just kind of go like, tee, as I just did. Honey Boy, starring and written by Shia LaBeouf. And, sorry, let me turn my page here. Terrence Malick's A Hidden Life and Greta Gerwig's update of Little Women. So,
also Hanukkah episode.
Oh yes,
That's
it's
right.
also because this is
And
smack
Yule
in the
and
middle.
Kwanzaa and Festivus and everything.
My list of grievances goes as such. No, for you Festivus fans. But anyway, I thought maybe we should talk about Honey Boy, just because I have a feeling that one of you, I don't know which, but one of you, at least one of you, has to hate this movie. Because there's no way that a movie written by and starring Shia LaBeouf can, I know it's LaBeouf, everybody.
Yes.
Can be just amazing and magical and everyone would love it. So
I think it's a crock of shit.
Oh, right out of the gate.
Shots fired.
Right out of the gate.
Shots fired.
Yeah, this was supposedly written during Shia LaBeouf's court-ordered rehab as a form of therapy. And I feel much like Martin Starr's character in the film. Martin Starr is one of his counselors at rehab.
Martin Starr's is always great, by the way. Every film he's in, every show he's in, he's so
terrific.
Great.
And there's a scene where he says to Lucas Hedges, who plays Otis, the Shia LaBeouf character, and
Oh my God, you did it. Evan did it.
I love it. And he says to Otis, I think you should go out in the woods and scream as loud as you possibly can. And Lucas Hedges is very skeptical of this, but then he does. And then he comes into Martin Starr's office and says, Thank you for telling me that. I went and it was just so helpful to me. And Martin Starr looks at him and goes, Are you acting? And he replies, Everybody's acting every day. And it's just, I feel like, so he gets that response and then he goes, okay, are you being sincere with me? And he can't tell. And that's how I feel about this movie. I can't tell if it's being sincere, and I hate the fact that there's dialogue in the movie like everyone's acting all the time. It's just...
I know, it's very deep, Shia LaBeouf.
It's the kind of thing I'd expect from Shia LaBeouf. It's like, I can't tell if you're being sincere. I don't really care. I don't really want to be watching this. I don't know. I guess this movie failed to make me feel sorry for him or to understand him.
But before we go further... And real quick, Megan, yay or nay?
I loved it.
Okay. But back to Evan real quick. Shia LaBeouf, generally speaking, are you pro or anti Shia? Or
I actually tend to like him, I think. Although I can't think of anything I've seen with him recently.
He hasn't been
Other than
around
this.
much, right?
He was
And-
in American Honey.
He's in.
I
He's
didn't
in
see
American
that.
Honey,
And
and he
he's
was
a-
in the movie.
Okay, you need to see that immediately because it's amazing, and he's
Okay.
actually great in it.
And then the
He
fucking.
didn't write it, right?
No.
The last thing I saw him in was Nymphomaniac, and if I could have those 5 hours back, I would sell my soul to Satan to get those 5 hours back. That fucking piece of shit. So, and I'm all for the porn in the movies, kids. It's not about that. It's just like, I don't understand why people think Lars von Trier does things that are interesting or relevant or groundbreaking because it's really all just 13-year-old boy fantasies, except he happens to be a 50-year-old man. So anyway, Megan, you liked Honey Boy.
I did. I can see where you're coming from, though, Evan, because I didn't love it for the writing per se.
Okay. I mean, visually,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
interesting.
it's Natasha Breyer who is the DP, and oh my God, she did Neon Demon, and her work is
Good
just
movie.
Oh, Neon Demon.
stunning. Yeah, I mean, and that's what I loved the most about this was the cinematography. I thought it was exquisite. There's this I love when it opens and it's Lucas Hedges, and he's on a set, and he's
Otis.
Yes, he's Otis, and he's yanked back by a harness.
Yeah.
And then the same scene is mirrored, but with little Otis. And I love the mirroring of that really nothing has changed for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I also am a sucker for a tortured soul, as I think
Oh,
I've
I
said
love
before.
a tortured soul in
Yes.
movies.
And I also love, well, I don't love, this is probably the wrong choice of words, but I was really fascinated by his dynamic with his father, who is so abusive.
Who is played by
Yes.
Shia LaBeouf, right?
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
So he's playing his own father.
He's playing his own abusive
Yes.
father. Yes.
With balding and just
yes, who wears
gross.
a t-shirt with tits on it, and
Yeah.
he makes fun of his son's penis size.
Yeah.
It's brutal.
Yeah, he's criticizing his weak stream peeing in the toilet,
Yeah.
just telling him because he's got a
He's
tiny
like,
dick.
you got that from your mother. You didn't get that from me. He's horrible.
You know, back when Jason Sudeikis was on Saturday Night Live, they did a fake ad about this pill you could take that would make your urine stream stronger.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing that and being like, is that something people actually care about? And I guess it is.
Apparently in this film anyway.
So, but to make a fake commercial about it,
Right,
at
right.
least 7 people were like, you know what? I've thought about that before.
Exactly. But yeah, and so he's emotionally abusive. He's physically abusive with
he's
him.
not physically abusive that you see for a long time.
Right.
But when
right.
he
but
does,
you know it's
he
coming.
winds up and just cracks him across the face and just punches him really hard a couple of times.
Yeah, he just lays into him.
Yikes.
Yeah, and then the other, I mean, that's heartbreaking enough, but the really even more heartbreaking part of that is that it's when Otis questions his father and he's like, I want you to be a better father, and you're, shitty to me. And that's when he lays into him. And so,
Yeah.
that's
when
it's
he's
horrible.
the worst.
Yeah.
Is when his son brings up anything
Right.
that just plays on his own insecurities. And there's this whole awkward thing where his mom has, I don't know if he has a big brother essentially played by Clifton Collins Jr., right? Or is that his mom's boyfriend?
No, are you
'Cause he
talking
said-
about the guy who comes to take him to things?
Yeah.
It's Big Brother, like Big Brother's Big
Yeah,
Sisters.
that's what I thought. Big
Oh,
brother,
sorry.
big
Yeah,
si-
yeah, yeah.
you know,
I thought you were saying it was his Big Brother.
because
I
there was
was
usually
confused
there's
for a minute.
often communication from the mom that Tom,
Yes.
played by Clifton Collins Jr., is going to come do whatever with him,
Right.
and yeah, the father fucking hates that. And then there's a scene where he invites him over for a barbecue. The Shia LaBeouf's character invites Clifton Collins Jr. for a barbecue at the kind of sleazy, shitty motel they live in. And then he, throws Clifton Collins in the pool and tells him, I'm going to skull fuck you and this and that. And just
Yeah, it's gross. And then I thought the scene that is a horrible scene. But the scene I thought you were going to talk about was the one where his mom, played by Natasha Lyonne, and you never see her, you just hear her voice, but she calls Otis and Otis is telling his father, well, mom says blah, 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 blah. And then he's like, you tell your mother that. And it's like they're having this
screaming
match, not to each other, but and their kid is their go-between. And it's so dysfunctional and awful, but there's something so raw about it. But yeah, I kind of love following very toxic and dysfunctional families. So I was drawn into it. And the kid who plays Otis is so good.
The young kid, not
Yes.
Lucas Hedges?
No, not Lucas Hedges. Lucas Hedges is fine.
Yeah.
what's his name? Noah Jupe?
Yes, Noah Jupe. Yeah, and he's so good. And yeah, I mean, I think Shia LaBeouf is fine in this. He's not. I mean, like, I think he is great in American Honey. I don't always like him. I think he's fine here. I do think it's such an interesting choice that he chose to play his own abusive father, and I couldn't stop wondering.
Well, Otis's abusive father.
Well, but right. Wink,
I mean,
wink.
yeah, he wrote this as in rehab.
Right, he wrote this as his father, but yeah.
No, I understand. I
There's
was
even a
making
scene-
a joke.
I
but-
know.
There's
I
even
know.
a scene, the final scene in the movie really is where there's, Lucas Hedges is sitting with Shia LaBeouf, and his thing is that he was a rodeo clown, so he's wearing all like the rodeo clown makeup and stuff, and they're sitting by the pool together, and he's like, I'm making a movie about you,
Yeah.
Dad. And he's like, well, make me look good.
Yeah, but it's all imaginary. It's not really happening.
Yeah.
Does Shia LaBeouf have a relationship with his father at all? Do we know?
I
I
read that
don't
his
know.
father I read that he had, when he was working on this, he had to travel to some Central American country where his father is hiding out because he's a fugitive
Oh.
and show him the script or something. That's what I read.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So what I was gonna say is that I do think it's a fascinating choice to play, a parent that's, even loosely based on your own, dysfunctional relationship with your parent. And I wonder if he thought that would be cathartic. I wonder if he thought that no one else could do it as well as he did because he could get all those subtle nuances that he witnessed as a kid. Not sure, but I found it fascinating.
Here's something that I would never use to describe Shia LaBeouf. Subtle.
No,
I'd
he's
never use
not.
that word. You know how they always talk about De Niro gives us his choices are so subtle. Not Shia LaBeouf.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I'm wondering if he thought.
I know.
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
No, that's not a criticism of you. that's like,
No,
I wonder
I
if
know.
Shia LaBeouf. I was like, I wonder if Shia LaBeouf really did think that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think the movie is at its most interesting when it's really honing in on the complicated nature of this relationship and the weird, complicated feelings that this kid has towards his dad. Like, especially when there's the scenes where they're riding on the motorcycle and he's holding on to his dad, and there's this, the way they focus in on his hands, the way he's holding on to his dad, there's still this intense trust there that you wouldn't necessarily expect. He still has these very intense feelings about his dad, even though his dad is horrible to him, and he recognizes his dad is horrible.
That, as someone who has a difficult relationship with one of their parents, that actually doesn't surprise me at all. That felt very true to me because when you're a kid, you may know, like, hey, this is, you may or may not, but you may know, you may have a sense like, wow, my parents really fucked up. But at the same time, you're still so desperately yearning for that kind of connection and safety. So, and there's a familiarity there. Like, even if it's a toxic relationship, it's still, a familiarity and some kind of connection. So, yeah, that completely worked for me because I thought that was really interesting and very true.
Well, okay. I mean, I think I'm gonna skip this one. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it looks good.
Yeah, I mean, I would say see it, but you
Well,
know.
I am kind of interested to see Shia LaBeouf play his own father, but at the same time, I don't really go out of my way to see his movies. So, I
Yeah.
mean, considering how many more there are on top of this one, on top of the stack that I want to
Very
get
true.
to, so.
Yeah, I would say that he's not the reason, for me, not the reason to see it. I mean, I think Alma Harrell, who's the director, and this is her narrative feature debut, I think she did a great job directing. I think Noah Jupe's great. Natasha Breyer, always great to see her work. So I would say those are the reasons to see it, more than Shia LaBeouf.
Okay. Well, on a related note, I did get the DVD, the For Your Consideration DVD, into the DVD player today, and then Ted, my younger one, woke up from his nap. So family stuff, interrupted family stuff,
There
movie
you
about
go.
family stuff. So there you go. Well, let's move on to A Hidden Life, or as I like to call it, A Hidden Story.
What did you call it? Hidden Gems last week?
Uncut
No,
Life, or hidden.
I thought you called it Hidden Gems.
Yeah, you called it Hidden Gems.
Yeah, yeah. It's not
Which
a
I
hidden
loved.
gem.
No.
It's kind of like polishing a turd.
Oh,
No, it's not that bad. It's
I was like, I didn't think it was that.
No,
bad.
no. It's okay. It's not. This is one of
Yeah.
those movies that, like, if a different director, if a non-Terrence Malick, eye in the sky, everything is a dance kind of director, if somebody else with a more, not phantasmagorical eye. I don't know. Not fantastical eye. That's what I mean. If somebody who just made straight ahead movies made this, it would be 2 hours long and it would be a lot better. You know, this is one of those movies where it's just like, how many times can you see the townspeople tell her she's a piece of shit before we understand? You know, how many times can you see him wander around the prison yard before you understand that, oh my God, he's locked up with the crazies and the Nazis are the worst fucking people. Yes, we understand. You know, you want to draw parallels maybe a little bit to contemporary America and hidden life. You could.
I definitely got that
I
vibe.
think, yes, I think that's there. I think it's everything about this movie is just heavy-handed, you know?
Yeah, I would agree with that.
but in a very strangely light-touched sort of way. You know, you don't realize it's heavy-handed until you realize it's been 2 hours and you've seen the wife in this story, all the townspeople turn on her because her husband is a conscientious objector, and they're all afraid that Hitler's going to come in and blow them to smithereens if they don't ante up with the Antichrist. So, which is basically the story. There's this guy, he's a farmer in Austria, Österreich, and this is another one of those movies where sometimes they speak German. All the actors are German, more or less, or Austrian. All the actors are native German speakers. Let's put it that way.
Right.
But they speak English to each other because it's an American movie. But then sometimes in the background you hear them speaking German to each other. It's just like, can we not do the thing where we have the actors speak English but with an accent, because that's just distracting to me. I would prefer, if you're gonna, the dangerous liaisons method, just have everybody speak in their native accent. And you know, the movie takes place in France, fine, they're all speaking French, but he sounds like John Malkovich,
right?
You know, I would prefer that here. Now, it just so happens that they have real German accents, but still.
They do. The one thing I thought about that, and I'd have to go back and rewatch it, which I'm not going to do, but not going to happen.
That was low-key savage in a way that I loved.
Yeah.
I like that. But at first I thought they were speaking in English, except for when people were siding with the Nazis, and then they were speaking German, because I noticed a lot of the Nazis were speaking German.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if that was a thought, but then I don't think that is a
then it didn't carry through
line. Right, exactly. So, because I was like, oh, is that what's happening to kind of otherize, you know, the Nazis and how terrible they are and the people associating with them? But no, it's not consistent. So,
Yeah. And then, so basically there's this guy, Franz, and he is Austrian, and he's got a farm with his wife, Fanny, and his mother lives with them, and they've got 3 young girls who are all very sweet and, you know, cute and like to play with kittens and jump in the hay. And having been on farms, those are things you do. So, you know,
play with kittens and jump in the hay.
That is everybody has
that
at least
sounds amazing.
Everybody has at least one barn cat, you know? So we have 2 barn cats.
Oh, do you?
George and Ringo. Yeah. We haven't got.
Did they already live there, or did they just?
We just got them recently.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
No, Joan brought them from New Hampshire. We had 2 barn cats who many years ago, but they got too old and they couldn't live in the barn anymore, so we gave them back to Joan's parents, who, you know, now they're indoor cats, you know. So but so now we've got a couple of young crazies hanging out in the barn being like, we love mice. So
I was like, yay. Oh.
Yeah. That's why you have barn cats. But anyway, so you got the family and the whatever, and they're kind of they're almost in the mountains. There's this bit where she's like, you could run away and live in the mountains. It's like, you're kind of in the fucking mountains already.
Right.
But anyway, Hitler it's 1939. Hitler is starting to do
Hitler-y things.
Wait a minute, is it 39 that it begins? It is, and then it jumps forward to 1943, right?
Yes.
Oh, right, because okay, now I remember. It's 1939, and Hitler is starting to be like, I think I'm going to annex the Sudetenland, and so, or whatever, go to Poland, for example. And so he's like, Franz is like, gross, as one should have done.
Yeah,
but
like Michael York in Cabaret.
Oh, Cabaret.
So he manages to not get in trouble for a long time, but then when he goes to basic training, he learns that he's going to have to swear allegiance to Hitler, and he's like, not at basic training, but when he gets called up to the regular service. So he goes through basic training. Everything's fine. He goes back to the farm. They're living on the farm. It's 1943. He gets called up. He gets drafted. And he goes and reports for duty as he's supposed to. And when everyone's giving the Hitler oath, he's like, 9. Actually, he just stands there and looks quietly.
Abstain.
He stands there and looks quietly at the ground, and they immediately throw him in the brig, or whatever the German version of a brig is. And then for the rest of the movie, he's, basically it's like, when are they going to kill you? And then, Matthias Schoenaerts shows up, and he's like, dude, who are you really doing this for? And one of the themes that comes up, everybody asks him this, is like, who are you doing this for? Because the only thing that's going to happen is you're going to die. And your children are going to be orphans, and your wife's going to be a widow. And whereas if you just, like, swear allegiance to Hitler, you'll probably just, like, not actually be on the front lines. You'll be doing, like, farm shit because, you're a farmer. So just fucking swear allegiance to Hitler. And he's like, 9, I can't. So, ich kann's nicht. So, ich kann nicht is what I meant. Anyway, so then you see that scene happen about 100 times, and then you see the camera move around in circles about 100 times, as in all Terrence Malick movies. Mm-hmm. The only thing that this movie doesn't have that his last few movies have is women dancing for no reason.
Well, I was going to say a narrative plot, but
right, and this also has a narrative. This movie,
it's no Tree of Life, I'll tell you
that. No Knight of Cups. This
movie has a legit beginning, middle, and end.
Yes.
It just so happens that this is a 2 hour and 55-minute story that could have been told in an hour and 55 minutes and been rather compelling.
Easily,
you know. But instead, you're just looking at the same vista. And it's just like, come on. It's like, I don't even really think I understand what you're trying to do. Is this an allegory? Is the Austrian mountainside an allegory for something?
Maybe.
I mean, or, we know what the Nazis represent. So, it's just fucking tedious. And then you don't even get and this is going to sound horrible, but then you don't even get the payoff of the fucking guillotine shot. They send him to the guillotine, and you see the guillotine, and you're like, oh, and you hear somebody else get beheaded, like, in front of him.
Okay.
And then he goes into the room, and there's the guillotine, and then there's the
basket of heads.
No, there is a basket that they're moving over to the place where your head would be, and it's like, all right. And then, it just goes back to the farm and his family being like, and, there you go. And then, of course, at the end credits, it's like, we found the Franz letters, and they're in this book, and it's like, and it's all books. It's all letters of, like, people wrote during people who were anti-Hitler wrote during World War II. And, it's a great idea for a story. I wish a more literal-minded filmmaker had made. That's what a more literal-minded filmmaker had made this. It looks good.
It does. The cinematography is beautiful, as always, as you come to expect in a Malick film.
Yeah.
My one problem with the film, and this is perhaps a nitpick, perhaps not, when Franz gets the big chance of a big moment speech where he's talking about why he can't do this. Like, he's basically been sentenced to death. The priest has come and said, if you just sign, we can try to get you off. And he's not having it. And he gives this speech as to why he can't do it, why he won't, cave, which is great. But he says, I don't know if this guy is evil or not. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, really? You don't know? And it's just, I don't know.
He's living in the mountains in Austria in 1943. He might not know the extent.
Maybe, but it's clearly a choice. It's a choice to have him say that, and to have him say that, it felt like, well, wait a minute, shouldn't he be more adamant if he's, sacrificing his life, sacrificing his family, sacrificing his freedom, sacrificing everything, and not only is it impacting him, it's also impacting his wife and how everyone hates her in the town because her husband won't get on board. It's not even her husband won't get on board. So I was.
Well, she's no fan of Hitler either.
Well, no, but I think she more is just supportive of her husband.
Right.
But I just wanted, if you're gonna take this, vehement stand. Like, take it. Like,
Yeah.
why are you hedging your bets
There's
here?
definitely the feeling that it's kind of like, well, I could do the oath, but I just don't feel like it.
Right. Which just is weird.
I
Yeah.
had too much stuff to do today.
Yeah, I gotta go fucking play with the
errands.
kittens and jump in the hay, and then milk some cows. Maybe I don't fucking know.
Yeah, it's weird. I will say the scene I did enjoy the most is when the wife and he are saying goodbye, and she's like, "I'm with you no matter what." Like, I got a little choked up. I'm not gonna lie, but
Yeah, I didn't. And you know what? I cry in pretty much every movie. So to not get choked up during the scene that's supposed to choke you up, I think says something.
definitely, yeah. I mean, I think it's just a sad situation, which is why I cried. I don't think it was necessarily the film that
Sure.
doing a great job that made me cry. But yeah, I mean, I have to say I did like this tremendously more than I liked Tree of Life or Knight of Cups.
Or
So-
songs. What's the song?
Song of Songs.
Song of Songs. Is that what
Didn't
it's called?
see it, so I can't comment.
Yeah, you're
on
not
that.
missing. You're not missing much, sister. There's another one we're forgetting. To the Wonder. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
didn't see that
Torture.
either.
To the Torture is what that fucking movie.
I haven't
should be
seen
called.
any of those with the exception of Tree of Life. And Tree of Life was not an Evan movie.
You know which Terrence Malick movie I like a lot, which people shit on all the time, is The New World. I love The New World. Loved it.
Oh,
Thought it was delightful. Not delightful.
I thought a lot of people though have kind of come around to that, like at years
Maybe.
later.
It also kind of has a story, sort of.
Oh.
You know.
Well, I mean, Malick said he's going back to a script. That's what he did here. He said he'd done away with a script for many films, and he's back on a script. So that's what we saw with A Hidden Life.
So I think it's To the Wonder. You're watching this movie and you're like, oh, there's a half glimpse of Ben Affleck, and okay, there's Rachel McAdams kind of dancing, because that's what women do in Terrence Malick movies.
I mean, don't you know that's all women do in their spare time? That's
fucking-
all we do is dance.
Have you ever noticed though, just like how that they just fucking are dancing in his movie? Like, what the fuck, man?
It's so weird.
So anyway, so there's that. But then all of a sudden, in a voiceover, you hear this voice, and you're like, "Is that Javier Bardem?" And then it is, and he's in the movie for like 3 minutes as a priest, just out of nowhere. He's there, and then he's gone.
Well, it's like Matthias Schoenaerts. He's only in the film for a few minutes.
Well, I know. Well, it's like when you watch The Thin Red Line, and you're like, "Oh my God, Jared Leto," and then he's dead in 90 seconds.
Oh.
You know, and George Clooney, you're like, George Clooney's name big in the credits, and then he's literally in the last 4 minutes of the movie.
Oh, wow.
You know,
See, I haven't
so,
seen it. So now,
yeah.
now I want to see it just for all the quick little shots.
Yeah, the Thin Red Line is truly a different experience. But anyway, that's the Thin Red
That
Line.
just makes me think of a friend of mine whose handle on Instagram is the Thin Fred Line.
That's amazing.
I like that. I like that a lot. All right, well, so let's move on and let's get to the main event, if only because we've all seen it.
Woohoo!
Is Little
I literally
Women.
just finished it.
Yes. Evan was watching it when we came in. Greta
Wondering-
Gerwig's Little Women. Yet another Little Women. This is the 8th or 9th Little Women
think
on the big
8th.
screen. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I should have checked.
I've only
this.
seen 3 of them now. I've seen the one
seen
with Katharine
3.
Hepburn
Yep.
and the Winona Ryder, Gillian Anderson.
Mhm.
Or is she one of those people who pronounces it with a hard G? I
I think
don't
she's
know.
Jillian, but she
Yeah.
could be a Gillian.
And then this one,
Yes.
which is it's really kind of amazing once you've seen the same story told different ways. I mean, this movie is light. It's so different from the
So
Winona Ryder
different.
movie.
And I love that about it.
Yeah.
I absolutely love
Yeah,
that.
I'm sure there's really no reason to like make it if you're just going to be like, you know what? Let's just use
Do it the
this. Yeah,
same.
exactly.
Right. So
Let's remake Psycho.
frame for frame.
Yeah, except for these weird 2 moments where it's like, look at all this video he's watched. Okay. So, you remember that? Yeah.
No.
No, it's so bizarre. It's so bizarre.
That is bizarre.
Anyway, it sounds like, Megan, you were going to take point on this one. So why don't you lead us into
Oh,
Little Women?
Sure. Well, for those who don't know, or maybe just as a refresher, it's based on the Louisa May Alcott classic book, Little Women. And it's about...
Classic. All
It
right.
is a classic.
No, I know.
And it's about 4 sisters living with their mom after the Civil War. Right, I
Dur-
think during
during,
the Civil War.
yeah.
Right,
Mhm.
and after.
And
It's
after,
both.
Yeah.
Yes, and it chronicles the 10
And they live in
years their
Concord,
life.
Massachusetts.
They do. And Concord, Massachusetts is a lovely, beautiful town.
Didn't they shoot it around here?
They did.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
did.
For authenticity.
Yes, I love that.
And also, when I went to the screening, all the people who were part of the Historical Society were taking photos of the screen whenever a building they recognized came on. So that was delightful.
Nice.
I was clearly blocking them out because I was at that same screening. But what I love that Greta Gerwig does here that's so different is most of the Little Women adaptations are told chronologically, the way the book is told. And this is a completely nonlinear narrative, and I love
Not
that.
without its problems.
See, we should discuss that because I don't think it has problems. I think that's one of the strengths of the film.
I think it doesn't have problems in the sense that I think it was a fine... I have no problems with the choice to tell a nonlinear version of the story. I think, unfortunately, there are moments, especially with Jo, when she looks so similar to how she looked 4 years ago that you can't tell for a moment which timeline you're in. You don't know whether it's 1863 or 1868.
Sure.
You know? Whenever you're with Amy, you know because she has bangs when she's a kid and she doesn't when she's an adult.
Right.
Thank God for the bangs.
They did her eyebrows differently too, I think. You could tell the difference between the
Florence
two time
Pugh has
periods.
very 2019 eyebrows in this movie. I just want to throw that out there. So very, very of the time, not the old time. So.
I found the nonlinear timeline jarring, but that is partially because I walked into this not having read the book, not having seen other adaptations, and so
See, now you should see the Gillian Anderson
That's what I
because
told
it's
him.
delightful.
It is. It's wonderful.
In a very different way.
Yes, yes. I think these are two lovely companion pieces. I think you should. I actually would have suggested you watch the Gillian Anderson one first and then watch this one.
and then watch this one.
Yes,
it would
because
have served me better.
I think so because I didn't. I mean, and I know Dave, you've seen that one too, obviously. But like, I think I might have struggled a little bit more knowing which timeline was going on if I wasn't so familiar with.
Yeah,
the
that's true,
story.
too.
Yeah,
It was slightly confusing, but also I just found it just was too choppy for me.
Yeah.
I had a hard time getting into it
There was
because I
some
felt like
chop.
it was jumping around
Yeah.
too much.
What I loved about it is that I love that it starts off where it does kind of near the end of the story, and it gives this very somber feel to it, and it feels like there's more gravity and more at stake, which I just love about that. So then we start off kind of like, not mopey, but kind of dark, a little more, depressing in a way, and then it ends on a lovely note. And I also love that the lighting, like when it's in the past, it's like this golden, beautiful, nostalgic.
Which I kind of found a little bit...
Oh, you didn't like that?
Well, I don't want to use the word pedestrian because that's not the right word, but that is a choice that many, 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 many filmmakers have made.
Of course. Yeah. I
So-
mean, there's no reinventing the wheel here, but I liked it. It's a choice
What
that...
they should have done is made the past black and white. No, I'm just kidding.
Like, that's not cliche.
And then it could be every film student thesis ever. So there you go.
Yes.
Split the difference. Let's do sepia.
Ooh, there you
Perfect.
go.
And then you're Michael Cimino. So, you're coming down somewhere.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't sure how much I was going to love this. I love the story. I read the book as a kid. I love the Gillian Anderson version, but I was like, really, do we need another version? But what I love so much about this, besides the cast, I think this is, and we'll get.
This is a truly fine
This is a
cast.
phenomenal
Except
cast.
for...
Well, except for one. Well, I want to get
I know
to,
who you're gonna say,
yeah,
too.
you know who I'm going to say. I want to get to my point, and then we'll talk about the one misstep in casting. What I love about the choices that Greta Gerwig makes in this are that not only is the sisterhood really highlighted, of course, but also the importance of art and identity and women artists in this film. And I feel like that's highlighted in a way more so than other adaptations, which I love. I mean, of course, everybody, knows that Jo's a writer and she's writing her book, which, turns into Little Women. But this one really highlights the importance, and not only for Jo, but also for Amy, which I love. And
she's much more well-rounded in this version
God.
than in the Gillian Anderson version.
Absolutely. I mean, I never thought I'd like Amy. I always hated her character, and Florence Pugh really just provides so much.
Well, then in Gillian Anderson's
interest with
movie,
her.
poor Samantha Mathis is just such a non-entity compared to the rest of them. And she's,
that's true.
and she's given some good performances. That was kind of like the tail end of her time.
Yeah.
But like, she's just fine. And what's the one with Christian Slater where they're in the high school and
Thing
he's
about-
the pirate radio guy?
Oh, Pump Up the Volume.
Pump Up the Volume.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's fine in that. She's good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. But Florence Pugh is outstanding in this. Like,
she's great.
I love her, period. She's always great. But I think she made a character that I absolutely despise. That's kind of a, traditionally unlikable character. And I do love an unlikable character, but she makes her really...
you understand why she is the way she is.
Exactly. And and there's so much conversation about marriage being transactional and how it's really the only way for women to make money. And I love all of that. And I love that we get that. And we do understand more of Amy's character, which is great. But
you also get a lot more Meg in this one.
Yes. Meg is always sidelined. And I love that we get more Meg. But let's talk about the one...
All right. Well, who is your bad casting choice? I think I know, but I think I have a different one.
Timothy Chalamet.
Oh no! Same one.
It is the same one.
Yeah, it's just like he's not
Teddy.
He's not charming. He's
not.
annoying. I don't understand why he would be a fun person to hang around with if you're these little women.
And also,
Nice.
if you've seen Christian Bale play Laurie
he is
/
the
Teddy,
perfect
he
Teddy.
Nails it.
Yes.
Just the right kind of whimsy, but also a little bit of gravitas. Although I will
whimsy
say,
plus gravitas equals Christian Bale.
That's right. But I will also say that I think it's not a breakup scene. The marriage refusal scene in this one is much more heartbreaking than
It's gutting.
It's just like that's the one time I think he really gets it right.
Yeah.
Timothy Chalamet.
I agree.
Timothy Chalamet. Chalamet.
Yeah, he's really great at playing mopey.
Yeah.
And so I think that's partly why he nails that scene is because he's so mopey in it. And that's not a denigration on him. I think he's a phenomenal actor. I love him in Call Me By Your Name. I just don't think this is the right role for him.
Yeah, I really think you needed somebody who's more innately charming.
Yes.
Yeah, he's just not charming.
No.
And he is more annoying than anything.
Yes.
And he also looks like a little boy.
He does.
Whereas Christian Bale looks like a man. Even when he was a boy, it was kind of like, you're on the verge of being a man.
You boyish man, you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, except for the musical that he was in where he was like
Newsies?
a Nazi sympathizer or whatever.
Oh, no, that's not it.
No, there's another one. There's two musicals he was in.
I only know Newsies.
Yeah. What was it? It's the one with Kenneth Branagh and Robert Sean Leonard. Oh, what is that called?
I don't know. It's Newsies to me.
I still thought this was Newsies.
Oh, is that Newsies? I don't know.
Well,
I'll look it
Robert
up.
Sean Leonard? Oh no, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, damn it.
I'll look it up. You guys talk amongst yourselves.
All right. So, Evan, I want to hear your thoughts on this because you were not as enamored with Little Women.
No, I think a lot of that had to do with not knowing the story. I tried watching this a few days ago before we voted for Bafka, and I got maybe an hour in, and I was tired, and I didn't feel bad about going to bed, and I didn't feel bad about not finishing it. So tonight, I thought I should watch the rest of it, and I did find it enjoyable, but in a very kind of, that was enjoyable kind of way. I felt like towards the end, I was joking with you, Megan, because you actually came early and we were finishing watching the movie together. I kept saying, "Okay, well, is it over? Is this it?" Because I felt like
it has several endings.
It does.
So many points where they could have ended it, but I ultimately did like the whole part with Tracy Letts being the book publisher, and her going to the book publisher, and the whole kind of meta thing about changing the ending to the book and him insisting about changing the ending. I thought that was very funny.
It is. It's also genius because reading the book and seeing the film adaptations, it always pissed me off the way Jo got married and the way, not that she got married, but the way it happened. I'm like, that's not Jo. That doesn't feel like Jo. And it never felt like it rang true. And so to have this ending where you're right, so meta, where she's like, well, if I'm making my hair, because he's like, you can't have a heroine who doesn't get married. Nobody will want to read that. And she's like, well, if I'm going to do this, then I want all the proceeds.
Then I want the copyright.
Right, the copyright. That's it. Thank you.
If I'm selling out my heroin, I better make some money off this.
Right.
I love that line.
It's great. And so you see this very like kind of, romantic, almost rom-com kind of like, oh, Jo has to chase down, Friedrich. And it just fits when you have that kind of added meta commentary about like, oh, so that's why that ending is in there. And I love that. Love it.
Oh, I agree. Sort of. I mean, I don't think that I loved the meta ending as much as you guys did, but, all right, fine.
You're along for the ride.
Yeah, I still think it's one of the best movies of the year, despite the ending.
I agree.
And I think that Saoirse Ronan is the best performer who's ever lived. Oh my God, she's so amazing in everything she does.
She is amazing.
And if I ever met her, I'd just be like, I just went to hug you because you're so wonderful. And she'd be like, get away from me. So, so that would happen in my terrible accent.
Don't think you're going to hug me.
No. Anyway,
but she's amazing as Jo. Like I mean, Jo's always a great character.
She's a great Jo.
She's
really fiery in a way that Winona Ryder is not. Not that it should be necessarily, not that her performance should have been fiery.
I think it should have been.
But you think Winona Ryder made bad choices?
Maybe.
I mean, Jo, from what I can tell, is a fiercely independent character. So yeah, you want somebody who's going to be fiery.
I agree.
I think she's very fiery in a low-key sort of way. I think she's still very, she's also of the time where she's like, well, I don't really want to offend anybody, but fuck this shit. That's more how I read her Jo.
Right.
Whereas this Jo's just like, I'm fucking burning it all to the ground.
That's right.
Yeah.
So
that is right. But yeah, and it's interesting because I don't remember this in other adaptations, and maybe it was, and maybe I have to go back and rewatch them. But I mean, oh my God, we need more Laura Dern in everything because I just love her, and I love her as Marmee, and I love that she says to Jo when Jo's like talking about her anger issues, and she's like, well, I'm angry all the time, and Jo's like, what? And I love that because
yes, that's not a conversation they have in the Winona Ryder, Gillian Anderson.
No,
I
they
see.
do not.
Gillian Armstrong. Keep saying
like,
Anderson.
Gillian Anderson.
It's Armstrong. Pardon me.
I was like, I want to see Gillian Anderson in Little Women.
Yeah, actually, I think that's the exact place that I paused after my first attempt at watching it was that scene, because I was chuckling to myself thinking of Mark Ruffalo in Avengers when he's like, that's my secret. I'm always angry.
Okay, that's the dumbest thing ever.
So I just want to point out, though, how much I was enjoying this movie. And then all of a sudden, father comes home from the Civil War, and it's Bob Odenkirk. Oh, my God. Day made. Life is complete.
Yeah, that was...
Bob Odenkirk has become revered enough as a supporting actor that he can be in a fucking big swinging dick, big budget version of Little Women and be believable as their father.
Yes, he's lovely in this. He's great.
I just, if David Cross had shown up, I would have been like, all right, now you've gone too far.
Well, he was joking about going to the West Coast, and I joked with Megan that he was going to go start Ye Old Mr. Show.
That's right, ye old Mr. It's Pit Pat. Okay. So, anyway, yeah, I don't know. The other, it's just, it's so much. I don't really know. I would love to know why they made the choices they made for the 1994 version, why it's only an hour and 55 minutes and this one's 2 hours and 20 minutes. Why, okay, so there's more Meg, there's more Amy, there's even more Beth, which do you need more Beth? Nah, I don't know. I mean, she's fine.
She's better in this than
Claire Danes?
Yes.
Yeah, well, Claire Danes unfortunately has the Claire Danes cry, which she uses in the 1994 Little Women. But
Elizabeth Scanlon, is that who
Eliza Scanlon?
Eliza Scanlon. I always want to say Elizabeth. Eliza Scanlon, I love. I think she's great.
Interesting fact, sort of interesting. Now, do we think that Saoirse Ronan's American or not? Because she was born in the United States. So would we call it,
well, I mean, she's born, but...
So she's American, technically.
Technically.
But let's go along that line. None of the Little Women, although they are American, are American.
Exactly.
Eliza Scanlon's a fucking Aussie, for Christ's sake.
Yep. It's like British, Irish, Australian.
So you got two Limeys, an Aussie, and, well, I'm not going to use derogatory terms for Irish people, but... Because there's always going to be one out there who's like, you've slandered.
It's best not to slander.
Yeah. So,
yes.
But anyway, and then you got a French kid. Well, he's American, but a French kid playing, playing Laurie. And then Chris Cooper.
Who's great in
He's
this.
fucking great.
I loved him in this.
I know. Except I always expect him to have a Southern accent for some reason, and he doesn't in this, obviously. But
yes, very different from the movie I watched the previous movie I watched in the same night I started Little Women.
Oh, what's
Beautiful
that?
Day in the Neighborhood. Very different Chris
Oh,
Cooper.
very different Chris
very
Cooper.
different.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Yes. But
Yeah.
he's amazing in A Beautiful
He's
Day
a
in the
fine
Neighborhood.
performer too. I mean, this
Yes.
is the caliber of performers.
We haven't even talked about Meryl Streep.
Oh my God, she's
Yeah.
the best.
She's the best Aunt March.
Aunt March.
Oh.
She's great, and just how like she calls Amy in. She's like, "All right, so here's what's gonna, like you gotta fucking earn some money, kid."
She's like, you're the only sane one in the family.
And then Amy's just like, all right. And, she's like, all right, I'm done with you.
You go back to your painting now.
Yeah. Also, here I have a practical question for everybody. So, Lori says, in I guess you would call it the present day, the
yeah.
whatever, when they're in France, and Amy has given her big spiel about marriage, which
God, I love that
which
speech
was great.
so much.
But
so much.
at the same time, he says to her, "Oh, you're washed." He doesn't say you're washed up at 20, but he says blah 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 at 20.
Yeah.
So she's 20 years old, which means 7 years earlier she was 13. Isn't she 11 in the book?
Yes.
Okay, so does that mean they switched her age with Beth's, or they just decided, we're just going to make her 2 years older because that way she's 20 and it's not so creepy
Correct.
that a 25-year-old is like hitting on her and he knew her when she was 13.
I think so.
Okay, just asking questions.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
I still got the sense from the film that she's the youngest.
okay,
Yeah.
I did, but this is another casting thing. I don't necessarily think it's wrong, but Florence Pugh just doesn't look like she's 13.
No.
Like not even a little.
I don't even think she looks 20.
Yeah, she's one of those people who is like born older.
Yes.
You know how like everybody in the 40s looked like they were 58 except they were actually 23?
Right.
So-
Right.
And like
she's an old soul.
yeah, it's like when you watch Sullivan's Travels and you're like, "Oh, Veronica Lake." And then you're like, "She was 19 when they made that?"
Yeah.
She looks like she's 35.
Oh, easily.
So it's just like it's kind of that thing with Florence Pugh in this. It's like you were born 35, even though I think she's only like 24 in real life. I don't know how
like
she's pretty
22 or
young.
something like that. Yeah.
But anyway, I just saw Midsummer, by the way. She's quite good.
She's
Yeah.
outstanding.
She had
in
3
that.
amazing performances this year.
I know,
She had
Fighting with My Family.
Fighting
as
with
well.
My Family.
Yep.
She's great in that.
She's amazing in everything. I mean, she's also in Lady Macbeth too. I mean,
Yes,
that
she
wasn't
is.
this year, obviously, but yeah. But she's outstanding. I love her.
But this is another thing about people not having stage names anymore. I mean, her name's Florence Pugh. So, I mean, let's all get back to the stage names. That's all I'm saying. I mean, I can't believe...
I like the...
I mean,
the
Bob
jettisoning of
Odenkirk, the
them.
only reason you can get away with that is because Odenkirk, how strange. Whereas the other names, it's, So anyway, do we have anything else to say about Little Women other than, I guess see it if you're of the mind to see it, not necessarily... Evan, what would you say? Is it worthwhile?
Huh.
Oh,
I've put him on the spot.
Yeah, you definitely put me on the spot. In the end, I felt like it was worthwhile watching it.
yay!
Ah.
I didn't love it.
Oh.
I don't know that I need to see it again, but in the end, I didn't regret the journey except for the fact that it had 12 endings.
Yeah. Well, it also sounds like there are pieces that you really did like a lot.
I did, yeah.
So, yeah.
So I guess I would say see it.
Yeah. Plus, I just kind of like the Greta Gerwig vibe,
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just interested to see what else she's doing. Is she going to act anymore? What the fuck, man?
I mean, I would love to see her act, but I mean, with this and Lady Bird, I mean, she's killing it being a director. That I'm here for that.
I love
as well.
Lady Bird. Love it.
Lady Bird's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I love this too. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think definitely go see this. It is wonderful, incredible. Even if you know the story, see it. Even if you don't, I would still say see it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But maybe watch the Gillian Anderson one first.
Yeah, but don't do
Gillian
what
Armstrong.
I
Gillian
did.
Armstrong. Oh my God, I just did what
I know,
you did.
I know.
Don't do what I did, folks. Go watch the 1994 one first.
Yeah.
Right. But yeah.
And wonder how it is that Winona Ryder could fall in love with Gabriel Byrne, who's playing a German, by the way. So
Alrighty
that is
then.
also weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was a weird casting choice as well. Even though Gabriel Byrne is lovely, but
he is
yeah.
lovely, but it's
But
just like
it
you're
was
playing a German.
Right, but it was just, I don't even mean that. He had like Gabriel Byrne in Winona Ryder had zero chemistry.
And he's 30 years older than she
Well,
is.
that was also creepy as fuck too.
So.
So there's that.
Actually, he's not that much older. I'm sorry.
No, he's a
like
lot older, I think. But anyway,
15 years maybe.
Ooh,
He's
well,
there's no.
all
Well,
right.
she's like born in what 71. There's no way he's born in 1941. I totally
all
misspoke.
right. That's fair. But yes, I love that Greta Gerwig is feminist and she's injecting her like. Little Women is already arguably a feminist story, and I love that she's injecting more feminism into it, and I love it. And I also love that rewatching the ending with Evan, I love that Amy says to Joe, when Joe's like, oh, who's going to want to read this? This is an important story. And she's like, it's just domestic struggles and joys. And Amy's like, well, maybe nobody sees it as important because nobody writes about them. So write about it. And I love that. And that's, another great meta commentary on this, that, it's just wonderful.
Hashtag representation.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Hashtag inclusion writer. Is that what it?
Actually, there's also, that's right, we didn't talk about this. There's also, speaking of inclusivity, there's also, because it is an incredibly white story, there is the addition of a Black woman character that Marmee talks to and talks about, and they have like a very, very brief discussion, I think, of racism.
I don't remember.
Yes,
I mean, I remember
they
the
do.
character.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, they're helping soldiers. They're
Yes.
handing out blankets or something. And yeah, Laura Dern says something to the effect of, I've been ashamed of my country, as in I'm no longer am. And she,
Right.
the woman says to her, you still should be. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. And I love that. I mean, because it is such a white story, like, but there's still some injection of, diversity and inclusivity in that. And I love that.
I loved it too. I
Yes.
just didn't remember it as well as you guys because you saw it.
I
like
literally
5
just
minutes
finished
ago.
it.
Right.
All right.
Yes.
Well, okay. So, all right. So let's break this down. So, Honey Boy, Evan would say pass on that shit.
Yeah.
But Megan would say see the shit out of it.
I would say see it. What I will say is that if you have a long list of other things, there are other things that you might want to see first. But I still think the cinematography and direction and the little kid are so good in this that I think it's worth seeing.
Okay, I'm gonna say pass on A Hidden Life. Just because it's just like one of those things. It's that I'm holding my fingers a half inch apart. It's this close to being a really good movie. It's just an hour too long, and not all like you cut off the last hour and it's like, oh, it's great. You have to go back
Right.
and do some major editing. But
I would agree with that. Yeah, I almost said I don't even care if people see this or not. So that's pretty much a pass, because if I don't even care, there you go.
That
Right.
tells you all you need to know.
Exactly.
and rock on Little Women. So
Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
and well, yacht rock on Little Women in Evan's case.
Yes. Yeah.
So anyway,
You should see it.
yeah. Little women belongs to me. Okay, I couldn't. That's the first song I thought of.
Oh my God, I can't even handle how excited I am right now.
So
Little Women and Michael McDonald. Worlds,
it.
Worlds are colliding. I'm here for it.
So anyway, kids, thank you for being with us for this year on the Spoilerpiece. It's been a big year at Spoilerpiece. So many things have happened.
Megan joined us.
Megan joined us,
Yeah.
which is a big thing that happened. So, I mean, not to restate the obvious, but and we told you how we feel about the movies. Please do check out our Patreon. The exclusive audio this week is about, depending on your point of view, the lovely and delightful While You Were Sleeping, starring, what's her name? Sandra Bullock.
Yes.
What's her name?
Or, one of the biggest movie stars ever, or whatever.
America's sweetheart.
Yeah.
Old what's her name? Sandra Bullock.
Yeah. And but as far as Spoilerpiece goes, we just wanted to say thanks a whole bunch. And please rate us and review us on all your podcast areas of choice.
Mm-hmm.
Get in touch with us by sending us emails, spoilerpiece@gmail.com. You can give us a call.
At 862-21-PEACE.
You can go to the website, spoilerpiece.com. You can go, if you Google Spoilerpiece Theater, you will find us.
We will be there.
We are the only ones. So, anyway, that's the end. That's the end of the year. Thanks very much.
Aw, that's
yeah.
sad.
I know.
Mhm.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm Dave Riedel. I write for Salt Lake City Weekly and Orlando Weekly, and I am a member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and my best movie of the year was none of these, although Little Women was in my top 10. Actually, it wasn't my top 3. I think it was my number 3. Anyway.
Wow.
Yeah, there you
alright.
go. We didn't talk about our ballots, but whatever. So that's me. Thanks.
I'm Megan Kearns, a freelance writer and film critic, editor for Bitch Flicks, member of the Boston Online Film Critics Association, and you can find me on Twitter at OpinionSWorld. I'm kicking myself that Little Women didn't go in my ballot for my top 10 because there are just too many damn good movies this year. But my favorite 2 films of the year were Portrait of a Lady on Fire and Parasite.
I still need to see Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Yes, you do.
So my name is Evan Crean. I am editor for The Independent. I'm co-chair of BAFCA and co-author of your 80s Movie Guide to Better Living. And you can follow me on Twitter and Letterboxd as Real Recon. My 2 favorite movies were Uncut Gems, which we talked about quite recently, and Midsommar.
Ooh!
I don't remember my 2 favorite movies. I think it was Parasite and fuck. I don't. It was Parasite and fuck.
Parasite and fuck.
There you go.
Yeah,
Good movie.
I don't remember what
favorite.
they were. I know that Bong was my favorite director, and Gigi was my number 3, I think. So all right, whatever. It all comes out in the wash, and we'll see you in 2020. Thanks everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.